It's always good. It's always good when we get pleasant. What is up with my fucking microphone? Hey.
That sounded better.
That's much better. It is your Classic Metal Show, right here on the ClassicMetalShow.com. That, of course, was Exodus with Zetro on the vocals there, with Temple of the Damned, a little live version there. And little before that, a very long conversation with Stevie Rochelle. That's pretty good, though, right, Jim?
But a very good conversation.
Yeah, we got the facts out there.
I mean, he told it like it was, and that was beautiful.
He really did, man. Well, on the line with us now, from parts unknown in Oregon, I guess, it's Mr. E, the Stranger. Mr. E, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here.
Dude.
That was a good interview.
Thank you.
It was cool to listen to him rant about that.
Well, dude, it's crazy that whole scenario is going on, and it's just more crazy, for all of us and any of us that are music fans to think, look, I can only speak for myself, but if I go and buy tickets and plan on traveling, it's because I want to, there's a part of me these days that wants to support these old bands that I'm not going to see anymore, that I know. I know there's not that I'm a Tough fan necessarily. I'm friends with Stevie, but I'm not really a big Tough fan. But I know I'm going to get like one last chance to see them, and Love Hate be another one, and London being another one. All bands that I'm friends with and whatnot. But you don't get that many opportunities. And to go out and shell several $100 out and then just totally get fucked, man, it's like, wow, man, that's bullshit,
Yeah, totally. I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, dude, before we even get anywhere with this, let's let people know where you're coming from. Tell people a little bit about your show, and you called me out fairly, I will say, very fairly, for having a guest host and not being you after you let me guest host your show. So that was a fair criticism, which I'll take. So why don't we start there with, share with people about your show, and because it is a fun show. It's very different than this, but it's definitely it's sort of in the same vein because you guys talk shit just about different stuff than I do.
Yeah. There's these. First of all, I gotta say about calling you out on that is that there's these few moments that I have. I usually make Facebook posts about them too. For those of you that follow my page, I'll give you an example. I usually fill up my thermos with coffee on my way to work.
Okay.
And as we got closer to Halloween this year, I noticed a big old box of these. What is it? The International Coffee Creamers. Those little creamers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a pumpkin spice pie flavor.
Okay.
And so I filled up my thermos, and then I grabbed like a big old mitt full of them and stuffed them in my hoodie pocket for when I got to work. And when I got to work, I have a place where I put my coffee up on this file cabinet next to my workstation. I work in the lumber industry, or the wood products industry.
All right.
And I set my creamers out there, and I made this aggressive announcement. Nobody better fuck with my pumpkin pie spice coffee creamers. Immediately discovering what a fruitcake I sounded like. And I did kind of the same thing after saying that to you about calling you out on that. I'm like, why didn't you pick me? Pick me, Daddy, pick me. I instantly realized what a homo I sounded like. But I'm glad that you asked me on tonight. That's it's great, man. I've been, of course, listening to the CMS here for the better part of the last year.
Sure.
God, I wish I would have discovered the show a lot earlier.
Everybody says that.
Yeah. Well, it's because the shows are so long. I mean, usually you can catch up. Like on a big iTunes download, you invest a month, you can listen to all the shows. But it took me probably 2 or 3 months to listen to you guys as far as the archives on iTunes goes.
Yeah,
loved every one of them.
And the ironic thing with the iTunes, that is a limited list. If you really want to catch up on the ClassicMetalShow.com, there's links that you can click, and one of them is the Feedburner link. The Feedburner link actually gives you another 2.5 to 3 years of content.
Wow,
that's even further. I think I figured it. I think I figured it out.
iTunes holds about 250.
Yeah, and dude,
my archives.
But we do 10 a week. So,
Right. That's right, because you segment them out. That's right. Yeah.
Right. So by doing 10 a week, you're catching like the last 6-8 months or whatever. But if you go to the Feedburner thing, you can there's literally, I think there's like 1,400 episodes.
Wow.
Or 1,400 different things at this point. They date back as far as we started the podcast in 2007, when podcasting first really started. We were, because I'm a tech and I'm a dork, and so I was like, wow, this is an easy way to get little clips of this out there. So I started doing it, but literally you can hear some of the stuff that we reference on the show sometimes that is really, really old, and a lot of people probably that listen today don't remember. I know some guys in the chat room, MOL, will remember, Laser Wolves and Wolf Mother, and just some of the real old stuff that we used to do is out there. So I encourage everybody to check out that Feedburner thing, especially if you haven't gotten enough of our bullshit. There's even more.
I gotta check it out for sure. I think the only CMS I've heard is since you've been back.
Oh wow!
I mean, I know that you were gone for a while because, of course, you talk about it a lot. But,
sure.
Yeah, just what's on iTunes. That's all I've listened to.
Well,
I love them all. About me,
yeah.
Let's see. Back in, I guess it was about 2005. First of all, you may not know this, Chris, but I was a professional musician for a while. I never got signed or anything. Well, I was put on one of the bands. It's called Anger Management that I was more or less just a hired frontman for.
Okay.
We were on Jägermeister's, list of bands.
Sure.
Which I would imagine they have hundreds and hundreds of bands, but that was the closest to being signed I ever was. But I put, about 15 solid years of mini touring and certainly performing around the Portland area and all that. And then I got married, and my stepson was born, and I just retired from the stage.
Okay.
And being the histrionic narcissist that I am, I had to still put stuff out for people to pay attention to me about.
Right.
So I jumped on the early, around 2005, the early YouTube bandwagon of vlogging, and,
right.
and I found a niche with comedy, and that was fun. And I don't know, there was this one group of guys of other vloggers that we did this one little project. It wasn't for comedy. It's actually exposing some pedos that were on YouTube.
Nice.
Apparently, what they were doing is they would upload their little pedo movies privately, and then they'd use YouTube as a format to exchange their
wait a minute,
videos.
How did they exchange them? Did they share accounts or something?
Yeah, what you can do is you can upload a video and mark it private, and then
and then just only people that get the link.
It. Yeah, so that they would link it to one of their fellow pedos or whatever,
right.
And they would do this trading. It was mostly overseas, but anyways, I could handle that for about 2 months before I was so disgusted. It was getting depressing, and
right.
And we shut a lot of them down, but it was just like fucking Taliban, where you shut one down and two more pop up. So
right.
I got out of that, but anyways, to shorten that story, what happened is one of the guys was actually his child was a victim of this.
Oh Jesus!
Not of some video stuff, but of there was a pedo that was stalking his underage daughter online.
Oh my God.
And it turns out he was a host, and he had a show over there on you and Neely's favorite old BTR over there. And I tuned into a couple of his shows, but what was more interesting to me was how he was broadcasting.
Okay.
And they gave you a phone number, you could take live calls and all that. And
sure.
So what I did is I started listening to a couple of the more popular shows over there,
mm-hmm.
in a couple different genres: comedy, paranormal, and some motorsports ones.
Right.
And I just decided, well, what happened was I started calling into a lot of these shows. I became a regular caller.
Okay.
And I just decided, I think I'm going to start a show, because I've got a kind of a fan base starting
right.
over the course of about 6 months of people that were contacting me offline or online, off air, about my appearances on different shows, and kind of encouraging me to start my own well, I hate to call it a podcast. It is a podcast because the archives go up to iTunes, but it's just like this. It's a live show.
Yeah, it's a show that has a podcast.
Right, exactly. So I started it, but again, I think I was tapping into the whole histrionic narcissist in myself, where I just wanted attention,
right.
And I thought I could pull it off or whatever. But when it came time to choose a genre, the only thing that could come to mind for me was all of my sleepless nights listening to Coast with Art Bell back in the 90s.
Right.
I mean, all of them. I just used to set remember clock radios?
Oh, yeah.
I just used to set my clock radio to the local channel that syndicated a show, and it was on all night long.
Yep.
And I mean, I bet you some of that was even subliminally, getting into my brain while I was sleeping even.
Oh, dude, there's no question about that, because I know I did the same thing. I used to sleep. My ex just could not sleep with noise, so I slept with headphones on for literally 15 years. For 15 years, every time I go to bed, I'd put on headphones or earbuds or whatever and go to sleep. And I know I'd be asleep in 2 minutes. The minute George Snorri started talking, especially, I was gone, because that guy's a fucking bore.
Right.
But
right.
I'll tell you what, I'd be at work or wherever I'd be, out with people or something, and somehow this kind of shit would start coming up, and I'd be like, oh yeah, let me tell you what I know about shadow people. And I'd be like rattling stuff off, and I'd be like, where did I even hear this shit? I assume it was Coast to Coast, but I don't remember it. So it seeps right into your head.
Well, and I've been kind of labeled by you and many others as being a go-to guy for when I say paranormal, namely UFOs and aliens and ghosts and that type of stuff. And the other thing is that for some weird reason, conspiracy theories get thrown in that whole group of followers. There's really nothing paranormal about conspiracy theories, but those get thrown in there, and religions too, because religions are pretty much paranormal.
Well, dude, the common thread to all of that, by the way, is that it's all stuff that half the people believe and half the people don't. That's why it all comes together. Right.
And for me, it's just always been fun, and so I chose to start a paranormal show, and that's what I did, and I was on every night. At least 6 hours, and sometimes I go all-nighters. Wow. And it was I just jumped in with both feet. I mean, if you go back to the very, very beginning, I don't know if you remember, but we crash landed some obsolete satellite into the moon. Remember that?
Yeah,
it was
like
that was
the
night of that was my very first broadcast ever, and I broadcast live during that. Over the night, and from then on it was just go, but it didn't take but 6 months for the show to start its downward spiral into smut and comedy. And that's all it is now, is pretty much smut and comedy. But that first it took about I'd say about a year to completely go away from paranormal. So there was about a year and a half of paranormal shows.
Sure.
I interviewed them all. Matter of fact, one of my favorite ones was, of course, anybody's seen the shows on Discovery Channel or History Channel on UFOs and Roswell and stuff like that. You know who Stanton Friedman is, and the old story of the military guy that brought flying saucer debris home from the Roswell crash to show his kids. Well, I did a reunion of those two. The kid, who's now an old man, retired military chopper pilot, actually, and Stanton Friedman. I don't want to bore your listeners with all that, but so
fuck them, they'll deal. They're listening.
Right. So what ended up happening and what it's turned into now is that I've just got a couple regular co-hosts You know, I don't really consider it my show anymore. Matter of fact, Psycho Dave in the chat room, he's one of the guys that I grew up with. Psycho Dave.
Okay.
And he's fucking crazy, and and I don't even know if I consider him having one of his oars in the water completely. I think he just paddles the surface of the water with one of his oars.
He splashes a little bit.
Somehow his boat manages to keep going straight, but I love the guy to death, and he knows it.
Sure.
And so he's always on, and then I've got kind of an analytical guy named August that's on, and then a plethora of regular callers, like like you have here.
Sure.
And that's that. I haven't been on the air that much this last year, because I was finishing up an associate degree to go into a bachelor program in communication, actually, and the last part of my the associate program was a little taxing on my time.
Right.
And of course, I have a newborn daughter now, who's about to turn 1 year old here on the 13th, and so I haven't been broadcasting that much this last year.
Yeah. Well, dude, it happens. Life does have a way of stepping in, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I'm not complaining, though.
Hell
I'm not
no.
complaining at all.
Absolutely not.
Give me a
man.
chance to actually start listening and participating more in other people's shows like the CMS here. I love coming into your chat room, and I like how you characterized me as CMS chat room shit talker, Mr. E, which I actually am. So that's cool. I like that.
Well, dude, it's fun. It's like who's the biggest fan of you in the chat is Neely. Neely,
no.
Dude, I kid you not, and I know you think he doesn't like you and whatever, but Neely constantly will just call. I'll let everybody behind the curtain a little bit. I get a call regularly from Neely on Mondays at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's like a show recap call. And he'll be like, oh, yeah, this was good, or this wasn't good, or you said you were over the top on this, or this worked, or whatever. And without a shadow of a doubt, if you've made some kind of wisecrack in the chat room, he'll be like, did you see what Mr. E said? Whatever it is. And he says it all the time. And I mean, you definitely grab him. I don't really watch the chat room probably very much, because I don't know, full of myself and think I'm so good I don't need help. But, I certainly do see and get some funny lines, especially from you and from everybody, really. I mean, it's what makes it what I think fun and makes it easy to do 6 hours, because most people
It does.
Well, and you know this, dude, because you used to do a fucking never-ending broadcast as well. If you don't have any interaction, man, 6 hours is a long fucking time. But
Neely's a pro too about the chat room. He will rather than just blurt out in laughter and then piggyback off of whatever's written in the chat room, he'll say, look what so and so says, and then he'll read it, and then you guys joke a little bit about it, and that's cool. I think it actually it makes your chat room during the live portion of the broadcast seem like home. At least for me, it does. I like it.
Jim, please share what you shared with me an hour before the show started.
I had mentioned Saturday night. This is like my family. This is my metal family on Saturday nights.
Same exact thing, man. It is crazy how it works, but it's definitely fun. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. I know this is a short break because I've got to get these interviews pushed out of the way. So why don't we do this? Since you used to be known as a paranormal guy, I'm about to play a song and an interview with a band that will tell you that they're not from this world. The band is called Lords of the Trident. Are you familiar with them, E?
I am not.
Are you familiar with them, Jim?
Never heard of them.
And I will admit I never heard of them either, but I did the interview with Fang, the interstellar singer of the Lords of the Trident. So I'm thinking what we do is exactly. We'll get this interview played. We'll get it out of the way, and we'll get ready to clear the decks for a lot of fun stuff that we've got following here. So Let's check it out right now. This is a song from the band Lords of the Trident. The name of this tune is called Complete Control, and it is a world exclusive, I guess, because nobody else is playing this. So check it out. Lords of the Trident, Complete Control, right here
on your Classic Metal Show.